Welcome into the latest episode of the Armchair Titans podcast. Austin Nelson, Trey Watkins, Noah McKay, and this is going to be a short one. This is right after the Titans game Sunday night. We had to do a quick recap just to talk about the horrendous debacle in Miami that just happened. We can first and foremost say this. If we ever see the Miami Dolphins on the schedule again, they're enemy number one. Listen, I hate the Dolphins. Or let me say this. I hate the Ravens. I have a strong dislike for the Steelers. Jags I'm not liking now. But the effing Miami Dolphins are on my hate list forever now. What just happened in Miami, I don't wish that on anybody's team ever. Ever. Like, if my best friend, who's a Vikings fan, if that happened to him, dude, I am so sorry that happened to your team because I would never wish that on anybody. Let's go ahead and just run it down real quick, Noah and Trey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awful today. Pass defense wasn't that great either. Then you had Marcus Mariota hurt his elbow, right hand, whatever you want to call it. Whatever happened to him, we'll find out later tomorrow.
No, we won't.
Maybe.
We won't.
Then let's see. Lawan gets hurt, concussion. Then you have Arakpo Morgan get hurt, get lazy throughout the game. Then you have
Delaney.
Greatest tight end in Titans history, Delaney Walker. Had a gruesome leg injury, ankle. We'll find out more too. And this is off the top of my head, guys. I didn't write anything down. I'm sorry if it's just mind blowing to me what just happened.
Yeah.
Losing the game in Miami, 27-20.
Who cares?
First initial thoughts. Go ahead, guys.
So we cheer for a team, and we write about a team that lost the Super Bowl by 1 yard, and came 1 yard short in one of the worst losses in Super Bowl history. We cheer for a team that went 2-14 and then 3-13. I honestly think that may have been the worst game in Titans history from an all-around perspective. I mean, it was a disaster. It was a complete fiasco. I mean, on both sides of the ball, off the field, on the field. I mean, they had more time in a delay than they actually played on the field. The game started at noon and it ended at 7. That's insane, first of all. And I don't think it's any coincidence that all these injuries happened in a game where there was that huge break happening. And because, you have full speed, stop, 2-hour break, full speed, stop again, 2-hour break, come back, play football again. So, I mean, at the second break, I said, you know what? I'm throwing this game out, like from an analytics perspective, because you're never going to play this. This is the one game in 20 years that you'll play that's like this with all these delays and the way it's happening. You compound that with the fact that they're trying to install a new offense, which looked good on one drive, and then all of a sudden it just didn't do anything. And the fact that all these injuries happened, and it was a complete disaster. You didn't even mention how absolutely awful the refereeing was in this game. I mean, it was just garbage from start to finish. Jeremy Boger, however you pronounce his last name, he's got it. I mean, he has taken Jeff Triplett, who retired, and just said, "Here, I'll take that spot as the worst ref in the league." I mean, you talk about constant holdings not getting called. You talk about the crackback block on Lawan that was just completely dirty, that knocked him unconscious, and they come back and call taunting? What? I mean, the game was a disaster, and I could rant hours and hours. Trey, tell me what you're thinking, man.
I mean, like you said, that was one of the worst games I've ever seen. And I've seen the 3-13 and 2-14 seasons by this franchise. That offense, I mean, the one of the positives I can take is that the offense looked well early on, only that they couldn't finish drives and get touchdowns.
Yep.
Then everything went to crap when the new Titans ref on the Titans hate list, Jerome Booger. I'm going to call him Booger because he sucks. I don't like him. He sucks. He was right by the play, and he didn't call a late hit on a read option where Mariota got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
That was the biggest injury of this whole game because that put the Titans in a hole where Marcus wasn't right the rest of the game, and as a result, the whole offense suffered. And when that offense suffered, turnovers came. When that turnovers came, the defense stuff because they were put in awful spots by the turnovers. I believe right after that second delay, Marcus had threw a pick. It was an overthrow to Deion Lewis on a screen. And Dolphins got the ball inside the 30-yard line.
Yep. And
as a defense, you hate getting put in that spot because now you're putting the task on that. All right, I gotta. It's just a bad spot to be in. And so,
here's the thing with this game: is you lose your quarterback, you lose your left tackle, your right tackle's already not playing. So right then and there, you start to hesitate when you try to analyze this game and go, hey, well, maybe they're not as bad as it looked, right, if everyone's healthy. But the problem is everyone is never healthy on this team, ever. I mean, it seems like every other week. I love our quarterback. You guys know this, but every other week it's Mariota's questionable return with insert blank here. I mean, so we can say that, yeah, they're not healthy, but they're never healthy. So if this is what you're going to look like when you're not healthy, which is every game, and we can blame Bozier for a lot of the missed calls that he had, without a doubt. But there aren't very many great refs in the league. I mean, you're consistently going to get bad calls called against you, and so it's just like, yeah, these are excuses, and I think the biggest one you can use is the delay because that just throws a wrench into everything. It throws a wrench into your preparation, how you're looking at the other team. And that's not going to happen next week. But there's a lot of warning signs, and these injuries are bad news. I mean, if Lawan, who they said has a concussion, can't come back, and you have Kevin Pamphile, if Conklin's not ready to go, playing your left tackle spot, that's terrifying. I mean, that's honestly terrifying.
I'll say this, though. They did a fine job after Lawan went out. I don't think – and there wasn't a lot of pressures of the quarterback after
yeah. And I know that Cameron Wake and Robert Quinn are good, but next week you have Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt coming to town.
And with merciless attitude.
Yeah, that is ferocious. And Pamphile played good today, but can you trust him to be consistent? And no matter how good he plays, he's not Taylor Lewan. He's just not.
And one of the worst negatives, and I know we can blame the refs and we can blame the offense, but the Titans had no pass rush today at all. Ryan Tannehill had, and I'm telling you, at least 4 seconds every single time he dropped back during this game. The defense just let him look like prime Tom Brady or prime Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. They were close a few times. And I mean, I want to say a few, 7 or 8 times throughout the game, but they could never get to him.
No.
And here's the thing. If you look at the schedule, to me, the Dolphins are arguably the worst team on the schedule.
They are.
And you just got beat. Arguably, you could say there's a few others, and everything's going to change.
The Bills are by far the worst.
Okay, I thought you.
Okay, I agree with you. One up. You can say top 3 worst team on the schedule, unless they just go on a run here, which I don't see happening. Like I don't think any more of the Dolphins after this game at all. I think less of the Titans, that's for sure, but I don't think any more of the Dolphins after watching that game.
Exactly.
And so that's. I mean, and Mike Vrabel, it's his first game, and everyone's going to overreact no matter what. He didn't, but. It's not an overreaction to say he didn't coach very well in this game. He just did it. I mean, timeouts were called at the wrong times, and you kind of expect that when you're installing a new offense. But there's other times where it was like, okay, we can't really afford to take a timeout this early in the third quarter. You need to have those at the end of the game in a close game that you're playing in right now. Things like that, and like we said in the offseason, you can't do the Patriot way and not win football games. Because it gets old real fast if you're not winning football games. This whole secrecy, and now we're talking about big-time injuries. When we're talking about little hamstrings and training camp, that's one thing. You're talking about your starting quarterback and your starting left tackle being hurt. This secrecy over the injury thing is going to get old real fast, and people are going to get real annoyed with it.
I think no, go ahead, sir.
This team coming out of the delays weren't prepared to play at all. They weren't prepared to play coming out the delays. And I know it's hard when you're playing full speed with a game-like intensity for, let's say, an hour, and then you get a 2-hour delay, try to come back and you have that same intensity is hard. But the way they looked, they weren't prepared. It was bad. And like you said, no, you don't want to overreact since this is week 1.
You don't want to at all, but
yes, you don't want to overreact, but there were some signs, man.
Oh, it's scary. That the things you saw. So, and a lot of the things we saw were things that in the preseason we go, don't overreact. It's the preseason.
Exactly.
No, it's not the preseason. This game counts. And you start talking about, remember last year when you went to Miami and you lost that game with Matt Castles playing quarterback? That's the reason you didn't win the division last year, losing that game. These games early in the season, it's easy to say, it's week 1. But when you're in week 17 and you're fighting for a playoff spot, that week 1 game that you lost in the weird game matters a whole lot.
And now with this loss, you put yourself in a tough spot because you got the Texans coming to town.
Who did not look good today. They did not look good today at all, which is a good thing. And that Texans game, see this now, the Texans game is the show me game already. We're talking about, it's not the Patriots game later in the season. It's this game right now. You got to show that you're a good football team. Because if they come out and look like they look today, next week, the Titans may not be a good football team this year at all. It could be a real bad year. And
then after that, you go on the road with the Jags against that defense, and the way the offense looked at times against this Dolphins defense will scare you. Then you got the defending champions coming to town with a defense that's still good.
It's like I wrote last week. You lose against the Dolphins, you're looking at 0-4 right in the face. And they lost to the Dolphins.
Well, we didn't know this would happen. We thought a clean loss, but everything was not everything today. Something else I want to hit on was just about Mike Vrabel's debut in his coaching era. Not very good at all. From the challenge flag that he threw, which I thought at the time was a fumble, just because it was so quick. Right. But we didn't see a replay. I know he didn't see a replay. I don't know who told him to throw the flag. I think just that he was seeing the players saying, throw the flag, throw the flag. It was a quick challenge. He should not have done that, so it doesn't look good on him. Just poor coaching just to get your guys in the necessary strategy, I guess, after you can't coach that. I understand that, man. Yeah. You have 2 hour and plus delays. You can't coach that. But just the fact that you were not prepared to play the Dolphins today, are you serious?
And you especially saw it on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, early in the game, Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore were gashing the run defense. And it was like over and over and over again, the same mistakes. I tweeted out the Titans are over pursuing on every play. And you saw it on the touchdown pass, especially to Kenny Stills, the first touchdown pass, where Adoree Jackson, if he just stays in his place where he's supposed to play and doesn't over pursue the ball, that's not a touchdown. It may, and Chris Carter was awful on commentary, but he was right when he said that if Adoree does his job, he's running the other way with that football instead of over pursuing that football. Yeah, Chris Carter was that announced team.
The other guy, I never want to hit him again.
I heard 18 pronunciations of Mariota.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He had Mariota.
Quentin Swan. And then real quick, so this is going to happen, this comparison. The Titans just fired a coach that won a playoff game. Now, we all agreed that he needed to go because he wouldn't change his offensive coordinator. That's a big reason for it. But think back 2 years ago, Mike Mularkey's debut, his first full season as head coach. We lost to Minnesota at home. But you came out of that game feeling way better about the team, right? You felt like, okay, the team looked better. The offense moved the ball. You lost to a pretty good Minnesota team. This game, I do not feel good about this team at all right now. Now, next week's a normal game. Let's say Mariota's fine, which –
I think he is. No, listen.
I hope he is.
I want to hit on too. I think he's fine. Yeah. I don't think Vrabel wanted to push the limit on him.
Maybe so.
I don't know if even Marcus. Did Marcus say, "Hey, look, I can't go. It's hurt. I'm numb. I can't feel it. Don't put me in right now," because I think on the Deion Lewis interception, the screen pass, one, it was an awful pass. I don't know why he threw. Just throw it away, ground it. Throw it at his feet, do something. Don't throw it to him. That was awful. But after that, then he didn't come back the next series. So it was a one play and done kind of thing. So who knows if he even should have gone out during that.
But and here's what I'm saying. So let's say that Lewan has a minor concussion, right? He's able to come out of the protocol on like Thursday or Friday. He plays on Sunday. And Mariota plays, right? You get most of your weapons back. You start talking about maybe Rashaan Evans can play. If the Titans come out and they look good against Houston and they win, then we can go, okay, well, maybe the Miami game was just a really weird game. But if they start showing the same tendencies that they had today, not being in the right position on defense, not being in rhythm on offense, and that's something else I'm going to hit on real quick. The offense, Corey Davis last year got a pass because it was his rookie year on always turning the wrong way on routes and not doing the right thing on his routes. He did it like 3 times again tonight. That's got to stop right now. And you compare it to like Delaney, man, that injury is so bad. But every time Mariota throws to Delaney turns right for the ball, and he's right on it. Corey always seems to either not be looking for the ball or looking the wrong way. And I don't know if that's just more practice, him being in the playbook more. I think that's a big part of it because it seems like he's not running the wrong routes. But every time a pass gets dropped or gets thrown to where there's nobody standing, my first gut is that it's Corey Davis running the wrong route, and that's a problem.
Now, I want to get back to Mike Vrabel just for a hot second. We all remember one of the worst calls of the day was that peel back block that wasn't called when on that interception return when I think it was Andre Branch delivered a peel back block on Taylor Lewan and knocked him out cold. Now, a brawl ensued after that play, and I saw Mike Vrabel in the middle of it trying to get rest of his team on the sideline. He couldn't contain that team, man. That team was going after everybody, and they wouldn't go back on the sideline. I don't know. It just seemed weird to me.
I wonder. Here's my thing with Vrabel, and I've kind of wondered it since we hired him. Is I think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's ready to be a head coach in the NFL.
I think he is.
When you see him on the sidelines, man, it's just like he looks like he doesn't command it. He doesn't command the sideline like this is my sideline, right? And this is why we keep talking about Matt LaFleur and Dean Pease, right? Especially LaFleur. Vrabel he has those guys, and it's them in the forefront, and then him. Like whenever a bad play call happens or something like that, it's going to be LaFleur's fault, right? Or the defensive scheme fails, it's Dean Pease's fault. And to a degree, that's the truth, and that should be that way. But it seems like Vrabel is, kind of just he's there, right? And I know he's been hands-on in practice and things like that, and I think he'll be a good head coach one day. I just don't know. He's been a defensive coordinator in the NFL for 1 year. Before that, he was a linebackers coach, right? He's only been a coordinator for 1 year. I wonder if he's fully prepared for the job than everything that comes under being a head coach, because there's a whole lot of responsibilities that go along with that. And maybe that's just me, but it's something that I've been thinking about lately. And every time you see him on the sidelines, I get this feeling like, is he really ready to be a head coach? And I'm not saying like, oh, he's not ready. The Titans are going to be awful. I'm not saying that at all. They could be a good team and he still not be fully ready. He could come into that role, but I don't know if right now he's fully prepared to be a head coach in the NFL of a team that has the amount of talent that this has.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I mean, it's your coaching debut. I don't know what.
No, that's fair.
It is fair too.
Expected from him. He's going to learn. It's going to be growing pains. This isn't a 1 year thing with Mike.
Right. You just hate growing pains.
We just all expected a better roster. A better head coach. I mean, did Mike Mularkey command the?
Yes.
Did he?
Yeah, Mike Mularkey took the heat. I really think he did. When I looked at Mike Mularkey, and I did not like Mike Mularkey. Right? There's people who command the room who aren't good head coaches, but I think
after the Lewan hit, the huge scuffle happened on the field. And that was a bigger fight than what I expected to happen. Yeah. Because the camera angles were kind of focusing on one thing, and then you see players running by the camera, so you knew something else was happening. I loved how Mike Vrabel ran out and was telling all the players to get back, up in their face, get back, and then something else would happen. He'd run over there and get back. So I liked that. I'm sure other head coaches would do it too, but I didn't see Adam Gase do that. Or at least I wasn't paying attention. He kind of blended in with everybody. But I knew what Vrabel was wearing.
And that's true. But here's the thing. This roster is so talented that growing pains are really hard to deal with. I mean – you're taking a risk if you go for a coach that has growing pains when you have a team that could win now that just won a playoff game last year. And you're talking about, it's going to come along with it, right? They're going to go, they'll go 8-8, whatever. I'm not saying you said that, but they go 8-8 because there's growing pains. You're going to voluntarily take a step back and hope that maybe he develops into being this great coach. And I'm not saying fire him or anything. Like I'm sure crazy people will be doing. It's just something that it's popped into my head. It's like are you really going to take a step back after the season you had last year when the intention is, okay, Mike Mularkey can't take any steps forward. So you're going to take a step back instead, hoping that next year he'll take another step. And if we lose, like if you are sitting 0-4 after this murderer's row, so to speak, of games, that's going to be a conversation that has to be had.
Look, we'll recap it another time. I think this is just a post-game recap of what the game this week is. Our thoughts of what's going on. So we'll have another podcast for you this week. But that was it for now. We'll have more time to deliberate and hear about injuries and whatnot Monday and hopefully Monday. I mean, again, I don't know if we'll find out about injuries. But for all the latest Titans news, follow us on Twitter at Armchair Tighten Up. Get us on Facebook at Armchair Tennessee Titans. Other than that, man, it's just a lousy tighten up tonight. Tighten up.
I know.
prayers for Delaney Walker.
Hey, prayers up for
Prayers for Delaney Walker.